It's Madden 24 update season. You know, every year when the game comes out, it's followed by a ton of updates. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and we've got our first one coming up. So let's talk about everything we need to know about the first update. It's probably going to be early next week. That's always when the first update kind of comes, within those first few weeks of the game. And honestly, the fact that we haven't had one already is kind of surprising to me. So that lets me know first week of September, we're getting that update, and it should be a pretty big one. Now, the EA developers have been on Twitter talking about a bunch of different changes that are coming and a bunch of different issues that they're currently looking into, and we're going to cover all of that in this video. I've been getting a lot of questions about certain issues in terms of gameplay, franchise, and even frame rate issues for PC and just lagging on consoles in general. So we've got a lot to cover in this video, whether it's coming in the update next week or it's going to come in the second one that'll be shortly after that, probably a couple weeks. All of these changes are coming very, very soon to the game. So let's start with the gameplay. I will say I don't think the gameplay has too many crazy issues right now. I think Madden 23 kind of had more, but there are definitely a few that desperately need to be addressed. The biggest one is the inaccuracies. If you've played this game, you know that inaccurate passes are a little crazy. Now, I know some people are going to say that's part of football. You're supposed to have inaccurate passes, and that's true, but right now, the inaccuracies are just kind of way overblown, especially even when you have your feet set, you're in the pocket, and you're not under pressure. Those types of plays, you're not supposed to have half your passes being accurate, especially if you're using a good QB. You could be using Patrick Mahomes, have your feet set in the pocket, not be under pressure, and you're still going to have quite a bit of inaccurate passes. And the way you have to look at this is, in a video game, if you have a top tier quarterback especially, the only thing you can do to guarantee your pass being accurate is to just play properly, have your feet set, not be moving on your back leg, not trying to throw on the run, not waiting and trying to release the ball while you're under pressure. If you do everything right, you should get an accurate pass, especially if you're playing online where it's set to competitive game style, which is supposed to reduce more of that variance that you would see on simulation mode. Now, if you're under pressure and you're off your back foot or you're rolling out, you're supposed to get more inaccuracies in those situations, and that's fine, but that's really not where the inaccuracy problem is. The problem is that when you're doing everything the proper way and even have a good QB, you're still seeing a lot of inaccuracy. So this is definitely something they said is going to be addressed. Once this is fixed, I think the gameplay is going to be like 10 times better for Madden 24. Now, the other big thing that they're going to be addressing is the loop defense. Now, this isn't as bad as last year's loop defense. That was the biggest issue when Madden 23 dropped. The loop defense during that time was just a little ridiculous. There were ways to beat it, but it was just incredibly overpowered in how it worked and how difficult it was to block, and it was just really unrealistic, and it's what everybody was running. Now, the loop defense this year isn't quite as bad as that. It's more of a defensive line loop rather than a linebacker loop, and it's a little bit easier to block, but it's still not something that is working as intended. It's not supposed to happen that way, so that's definitely going to be addressed as well, and that'll be out the window pretty soon, and people will just kind of be back to probably just being blitz heavy or just playing stock man coverage. Another issue they said they were working on are the dropped picks. Now, this is another thing, depending on who you ask. You could be in favor of this, you could be against this. Drop picks definitely happen in real life. Again, when you're on competitive game style, though, playing online, that variance isn't supposed to be as high as when you're playing in simulation style. So while drop picks are going to happen and should happen, they're just happening a little bit too much this year. And again, in a game where the quarters are short, the possessions are limited, and let's be honest, the defense overall in Madden is never usually too overpowered. If you're a good player and you know what you're doing, you can score usually pretty easily. You need to be able to catch the picks that are hitting you in your hands. When people make a bad pass, they need to be punished for that at least more times than not. And right now, the drop picks are just a little too high, so that definitely needs a bit of an adjustment, and it's going to get adjusted. Hey, if you're still here at this point of the video and you haven't subscribed yet, you might as well go ahead and subscribe, join the family. That way you're always up to date with all of your latest Madden and football gaming news. I mean, you're basically already a part of the family anyway if you're watching the video, so you might as well just officially join on our road to 1 million subs. Another thing one of the developers spoke on Twitter was the edge play. Obviously, the edge play could use some work right now, especially when you look at how easy it is to roll out with the QB, and also just how good stretch runs are. Not quite as good as they were in Madden 20 where it was everybody's offense, but they are pretty good with the run blocking being better this year. But another part of that is the edge play just needs to be a little bit more aggressive, because both outside runs and rolling out with the QB is pretty easy this year compared to the last couple years, and they said they are actively working on that, so that's something that's likely coming in that first update as well. And another thing they touched on that I'm very glad I saw on Twitter from one of the devs is the hurry up offense. As many of you might know if you play online, the hurry up offense is definitely overpowered this year. In fact, I even did a video yesterday on my second channel showing off just how powerful the hurry up offense is. And if you're playing online, you're probably using it and you've definitely seen it because most people are no huddling every play because simply you can snap the ball so much quicker this year than you could the past few years. It's kind of been sped up by about a second, which is a really big deal when you're trying to set up a defense to stop some of these powerful offensive plays. So everybody's no huddling because it just gives you such a huge advantage. The defense obviously should be at somewhat of a disadvantage against a no huddle. That's kind of the point of it. But right now it's just way too fast. Like, it just doesn't give the defense a realistic chance at all to do anything. Whereas like you should still be able to get an adjustment or two off, and you can't really do that right now. So they did say that they are addressing that and they're going to probably bring it back to how it was last year, which was still good, was still effective, but it just wasn't as overpowered as it is right now. Now, really quickly, I do want to mention that we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Once again, they are a great fantasy app, and they also have a fun pick'em game that I like to dabble in myself when I'm watching sports. And with week 1 of the NFL season coming up, they actually have a great special going on that you just can't beat. You can get Patrick Mahomes to go higher than 0.5 yards. So that means if he passes for 1 yard, which he obviously is, that's gonna hit. So all you have to do is find another prop that you like, whether it be from that game or just any other week 1 NFL game. So for example, in that same game, I'm gonna take Amon-Ra St. Brown to go higher than 77.5 yards. And if both of those hit, you can win some money. And with Mahomes being at 0.5 yards, they're just basically giving you a free play right there. So you just have to find one other thing to get right. Now, if you sign up and use my promo code RAY, R-A-Y, they'll actually double your first deposit up to $100. So you can get $100 free to play around with. So if you're interested in it, check it out. Now, with the update that's coming out, they also said that they're going to be looking into fixing some of the lagging issues. They said they already have deployed some updates, some quick fixes for it to make it a little better, but some people are still obviously complaining about lag because it exists on both consoles, and they said that more of those are on the way very soon, and it's something that they're aggressively going after because obviously if the game is laggy, you know, that really can destroy the game. Like, you need the game to run smoothly. And also, to talk about PC as well, they've also talked about the PC performance and the frame rate issues, and they said same thing for that they are actively working on that pretty aggressively, and we should see something with that in the next update as well. Now, in terms of franchise mode, they've already spoken on a few issues that they're going after, like the generated draft classes, the editing of the rookies, the editing of players, some of just the other issues that are there, like the home field advantage toggle not working, and pretty much anything that you've seen wrong with franchise mode, they've already either spoken on it or they know about it, and they're actively working on it. So a lot of these we're going to see updated with this next update next week, and if not that one, it'll be the one that's a couple weeks after that. There's also going to be rookie likeness updates for sure, player likeness in general, but most of them are going to be rookies. As most of you know, the first update of the year, we always get a lot of rookie player likeness added because when the game drops, they'll have a few of the big names in there, but we're still missing quite a few of them, and they usually do come in that first update and even some in the second update. So that's on the way as well next week. Uniform updates are also on the way. A lot of teams have brought in new alternates or are going back to some of their old school uniforms, but they've made some slight tweaks to them. So that's going to be updated. There's also a few uniform issues with a few teams that they said that they are addressing for this update as well. There's also going to be field updates, most notably for the New York teams. They're using the logo at midfield instead of the NFL shield. Not really sure how that one wasn't just updated for launch of the game. That seems like a smaller thing, but that is coming along with other field updates for other teams that have changed certain things over the season. And of course, the new alternate helmets go kind of hand in hand with these uniform updates and stuff like that as well. A lot of teams have unveiled new alternate helmets this year, like the teams that did last year. So those will be coming with the first or second update as well, just like they did last year in Madden 23, since they were kind of announced a little bit later, right before the game is about to come out. They can't get it in the game right away, so they're working on that now to put it in for these first few updates. And they also said the official week 1 roster update will be out next week before week 1, so we'll probably get it on Wednesday. Typically roster updates drop on Thursday, but for the first week of the season, they usually drop that official one on Wednesday before the Thursday game, or at the very latest, you'll get it early on Thursday. As teams are still making moves, they're still cutting players, they're still bringing people back to the team that they might have cut earlier, or bringing them to the practice squad, all that little stuff. So all that's gonna be updated next week. They said they're just waiting kind of to the last minute for that because they want the rosters to be as accurate as possible because teams are still moving people around as of right now. Now, if you want to know about some other big updates that we can expect to come to Madden at some point this year, make sure to check out this video right here on the screen.